Hello and welcome back to Everso. I'm So, and this will be a continuation of the third chapter of the 1-800 Gotham by Goldfish in a Bag. Dick's not sure what he's expecting when Barbara tells him that Jackson, Angel's informant, he had an informant this whole time, will be meeting up with them in person. When he spoke to Angel over the phone, he seemed rather normal, maybe a little more on the stoic side, but Batman is Dick's dad, so it's not anything he's not used to. In fact, he had a feeling after the first call with Angel that they might even become friends. Bruce has estimated Angel's age to be around Dick's. And since he doesn't have many friends his age outside of the Titans, he's been a bit excited to get to know the man. Dick was a little touched when Angel ended the call by wishing for Nightwing's safety. It was almost poetic the way the operator said it. To him, Angel is a pretty decent guy as far as he knows. He hasn't done any harm to the city. In fact, he's only done the complete opposite. While Dex understands Bruce's classic paranoia and lack of trust, he personally thinks both Angel and his hotline aren't things to worry about. They should become allies with him instead. Not to mention, Angel calmly and politely answered all of Dick's questions, despite him most likely knowing it was an interrogation. That shows humility, patience, and strength. So when Babs reveals that Jackson, someone most likely on the younger side, based on what Angel mentioned and Jackson texting style, agreed to meet them, Dix is looking forward to meeting a trusted individual of Angel, his expectation high. He isn't expecting a small, skinny teenager to come walking through Jackson's safe house door through. At first, Dix and Jackson are chatting on the couch, waiting for Bruce to meet with Jackson and bring him to this safe house, which is one of many of Jason's. "So, how much you wanna bet that this Jason guy is Angel's kid?" Jason says, twirling a dagger. "He may be on his younger brother instead. I doubt Jackson much younger than Angel," Diggs replies. "Really? With that type of texting? He sounds like he's 12. You think Angel is going to throw a child to run around the most dangerous parts of Gotham for his hotline info?" "Yeah, but that's Bruce. He's an exception." Jason snorts. "Fair enough." His informant seems to be energetic and enjoys the nightlife, and both of them have said Jackson likes his job. The way he types may be a red herring, Diggs observes. And even if Jackson turns out to be Angel's actual kid, I don't think Angel has any malicious intent towards him based on what Barb's told us about their conversations. Seems like he really cares about Jackson. Although Jackson did say some concerning things, I think it's better to judge once we meet him. He shrugs. "I would bet it's more of like Batman-Robin situation. Maybe like me and Damien." Jason hums, passing his dagger back and forth. 20 bucks on Jackson being his kid," he offers, putting away his dagger and showing a hand out to Dick. Dick takes it. 20 bucks on Jackson being his brother, he grins. They know that they're bet, firmly shaking each other's hands. With perfect timing, Dick hears the door creak open, and both he and Jason stand up to greet their guests. They want to make a good first impression on Jackson, and by association, a good impression on Angel. They need to get on their good side. After all, these two essentially have the most command and influence on the majority of Gotham civilians. The Bats need that sort of trust and sway in the public. Dick first spots Batman standing by the door, but then is taken a little aback when he sees the much smaller physique of the informant. He can't be taller than 5'6", Dick thinks. Jackson actually sounds a bit younger than he expects when he hears him talking to Bruce. But he puts both of those things aside since they don't actually prove Jackson's age. For all Dick knows, the informant could just sound young, and age isn't determined by height. His height might even help with his investigation skills if Jackson is out collecting information physically. A smaller frame is useful for hiding, after all. Damien won one too many intensive hide-and-seek games with the family because of his height and stealth. So Dick knows not to underestimate those who are shorter. Cass remains victorious in hide-and-seek so far, winning every single game she's played. He has learned the hard way that height does not equate to anything. Dick does catch onto the poorly hidden crime alley accent Jackson has behind the exaggerated Bristol one he's attempting at, though. It's as if he's listening to a younger Jackson before everything, and it makes him smile a little, reminiscing. Back when Jason was warming up to Bruce, he tried to adopt Bruce's very Bristol-born accent and even a bit of Alfred posh British as an olive branch of sorts, and ended up sounding like an amalgamation of proper and casual speech instead. It was cute. Dick wishes he had gotten his act together and got to know Jason before leaving Gotham and moving to Bloodhaven. If only he hadn't projected his hurt and blame onto him when it wasn't Jason's fault. If only he stopped being childish. If only he stayed. Guess I win the bet, Jason suddenly whispers with a grin to Dick, breaking out of his thoughts. He looks at his younger brother standing right beside him, grown so much taller than him that Dick has to crane his neck up to look directly at him, and shakes his regrets out of his mind. Jay's here now, Dick reminds himself. You can get to know him in the present. You stayed this time, didn't you? As if we can know that for sure, Dick whispers back, adamant. Come on, Big Bird. Look, he's the sack of bones. An adult man can be on the smaller side, he insists. You just don't admit you lost. He ignores Jason and focuses back on the informant, Jackson. Somehow not noticing or just plain ignoring both Nightwing and Red Hood. Is looking around and wandering the safe house with careful steps, brimming with curiosity when he mumbles something very quietly. It's barely audible, but Dick makes out a few words. Windows, Must emergency exits, he hears. He glances around the building and yeah, Jackson's right. There aren't any windows, since glass is dangerous and would make the whole safe house thing ineffective if the inside could be seen. Jason didn't bother adding the usual bulletproof one-sided windows he has, since the safe house is one of the throwaways ones that he had around Gotham as a precaution for him getting injured upon patrol and needing a queer secure location to patch himself up in. Bruce always insists on adding the tinted windows though, whenever Jason visits the manor. Something along the lines of more escape routes being more effective and safe. Dick has stopped listening after the fourth time we mention it. But it's always a smart idea to be cautious and find ways to escape building, especially if it's an unfamiliar one. A child couldn't have that level of acute sureness and paranoia. He and the rest of his siblings are exceptions to this, of course, because most of them have been trained since they were young by Batman, and there isn't anyone else like their father. Angel and Jackson must be on equal levels. Dick's brother theory is sounding better and better. Jackson, Bruce calls gruffly, pulling Dick's attention back to them. B places a hand on the informer's shoulder to get his attention and to stop him from exploring. Jackson flinches violently as soon as Bruce's hand touches him. Dick has never seen someone flinch so harshly before, and he almost instantly goes to protect him, only just managing to stop himself. Bruce must have felt the same way, because he freezes and immediately takes his hand off, which makes Jackson visibly ease up and lessen his stress. Dick sees Bruce's jaw tighten. An arm nudges Dick's side. Ling, Jason whispers with a serious tone. Yeah, I saw it too, Dick replies, voice hushed and concerned. He's not so confident about his theory anymore. People don't flinch like that, not without serious trauma. Even the most wary and guarded do not have nearly as extreme of a reaction. It's more than something as simple as nerves. That kind of reaction is learned, integrated into the body like winding roots, crooked and jagged. The kind of reaction goes beyond just fear. It's pure terror. Dick knows that everyone in this room is thinking right now, what on earth has happened to this kid? But all their concerns are blown aside for now when Dick hears Jackson casually speak to Bruce. Or more like when he hears what Jackson says to Bruce. What's up, Mr. Batman? Dick blinks. Mr. Batman. He just called B Mr. Batman. With a flash speed flip in the mood, Dick shares a knowing look with Jason before immediately breaking out in maniacal laughter. He practically collapses on the floor, clenching onto Jason, who is shakily vigorous as well, unable to contain both of the hysterics. Oh, they are going to tell everyone. There's truly no better bonding experience than blackmailing and making fun of Bruce. Steph and Cass are going to get a kick out of this once they're back from their mission. Especially Steph. Dick is looking forward to seeing her relentless teasing directed at B. He will never live this down. Dick, managing to collect himself first, goes to introduce himself to the informant. As he does, though, Dick becomes less and less confident in the brother Angel. Jax, sounds far too young to be an adult near Angel's age. He sounds like a kid, maybe slightly older than Demi. 15, no older than 16. Is Jax even a legal adult on paper yet? However, Dick's not giving up on his theory just yet. He and Damien have a large age gap as well. And while it's true that Dick is his eldest brother, he also acts like a father figure, especially during their time together as the iconic Batman and Robin duo. If Dami can be Dick's Robin, then Jax could be Angel's. When Jackson takes Jason's and his bribed scheme to keep calling Bruce Mr. Batman and cause the man to be tortured, Dick isn't expecting him to immediately do it. And it sounds like Jason isn't either, because he bursts out hobbling once more, with Dick following suit. It takes a long time for them to collect themselves again, only pulling it together after Barbara interrupts them with a stern voice through the laptop Bruce set up for her to communicate with Jason. Speaking of, she must have an audio recording of B getting called Mr. Batman. Dick makes a mental note to request it from her later. It's actually a bit reminiscent of the way Angel calls Dick Mr. Nightwing the first time he called. Jackson must get it from him. Definitely brothers. Another point for Dick. Jack sounds deflated when Babs mentions that they didn't call him here to hang out. He looks deflated. She must hear it from her voice, because her voice instantly becomes kind and mellow as she addresses Jax. Barbara tells him about the Bat's proposal to work together with him and Angel. Did Angel fill you in about our agreement? Dick asks Jax with a head tilt. Jax nods, replying, "Yeah, he did. He told me about me being out on loan to you guys, 'cause you need info, right? And you need his tech skills." Dick's face spasms as he swirly smooths it over before the boys can see it. He notices some minuscule reaction from Batman and Red Hood to Jack's concerning words as well. They must be thinking about the same thing. Every time he mentions anything about Angel, there are so many red flags about their relationship. Being alone makes it sound like Jack is Angel's property. Dick shudders, body full of uneasiness. Please, just be a horrible, terrible misunderstanding I'm having, he prays with all his might. Please don't let a man who sways the public be a potential child abuser. Dick promptly changed the subject. When he requests Jax to explain how he figured out Scarecrow managed to create a liquid version of fear toxin, the young informant accidentally pulls out his laptop, which is adorably decorated in stickers of Gotham heroes. Dick notices. He doesn't even know people sold stickers of them. Dick makes a promise to the kid, because Jax must be a kid, for autographs after the important part of this meeting is over. Jack turns on his laptop and silently begins to type at a speed Dick swears could be comparable to Wally's. He explains that Angel built him a program that creates new encryptions in order to keep his computer as secure as possible, and that he only has 29 seconds to do so. Over twice, his device will explode. While both he and Jackson panic at the last part, Jax is calm and poised. He tells them not to worry and that it's not particularly hard encryptions. There's no way they aren't difficult. Even Bruce reacted to them. Jax grins nonchalantly at them when he finishes entering all the passcodes with time to spare. 29 seconds is actually far too much time, he tells them. Despite clearly being disadvantaged with a mere 29 seconds deadline, he still manages to have time to spare. Dick doesn't think even Bruce can do that. This kid's a genius, he realizes, and one that doesn't know his intellect. Maybe Angel is more like Bruce or Dick than he thought. And instead of being a neglectful or manipulative brother/father figure, maybe he's just protecting Jax. That's it. Bruce comes to an abrupt empathy. He's protecting him. When I asked Angel about what his motive was, he simply said he wanted to help in the ways he can. He wasn't lying. Angel's trying to help Jax in the ways that he can. I know that Jackson enjoys the adventure and the thrill, he told us himself. What if Jackson started going out first, and then Angels found out? And he created the hotline due to Jackson's nighttime escapades, and by being on top of all Gotham incidents, he can protect his baby brother. Dick nods to himself. This is plausible, realistic even. He would do the same for any of his siblings. Hell, he became Batman for Damien when Bruce was lost in time. Becoming an emergency hotline operator seems much more feasible for a civilian trying to do their best to protect someone they love. It's almost like a reverse Robin situation, Dick laughs to himself. Instead of Batman, it's Robin who keeps going out at night, with Batman following him. With this newfound revelation, Dick loosens up significantly, very grateful that Angel is not a child abuser. Batman must have already figured this out before him. He checks his attention back in towards Jax, who is rambling about some other program of sorts at the moment. And it checks all the data points and tells me and Angel about trends and potential breakouts and stuff, with pretty accurate percentages and everything. Jackson eagerly tells him. Now move to the living room with Oracle laptop instead of sitting on the ground. That's how I figured out about Jay's Scarecrow's new toxin. It's super neat, isn't it? It sounds incredible, Jackson. Barbara says, amused. Do you think you can share it with us? Sure, he chirps. I gotta run it by Angel first, since that's how he does his whole hotline shtick. He'll probably say yes. Dick smiles at the alley accent slowly slipping out more and more, just like Jason does when he gets riled up about something he's passionate about. He takes a quick glance over to both Jason and Bruce. Bruce is listening intently, nodding and even commenting on occasion. If B is willingly speaking to another person, An unknown, no less, then Jax must be saying something impressive enough for Bruce to be engaged. Jason, on the other hand, is relaxed and watching the young informant rattle off. If he wasn't wearing that helmet, Dick's certain that his expression is soft, eyes filled with gentle attentiveness. He definitely has already caught onto the fake Bristol accent Jax entirely fails at adapting. Dix wonders if Jason remembers too. If he remembers childhood with Bruce, Alfred, and him. He won't ask, of course, but he thinks about it a lot more than he would like to admit. Do you remember me like I remember you? Did you miss me like I miss you? Do you forgive me? I don't think I can forgive myself. He shakes himself out of his thoughts. Not the time to be contemplating the past. Very neat, kid. Diggs hears Jason respond with a smile. I do have one question for you. Jackson, with sparkling blue eyes, akin to the reflection of sky in the lake, looks at Jason brimming with curiosity. What is it, Todd? Oh, so he is Hood, and B is Mr. Batman. Dick snores in his head. Makes sense if Jack's from the alley. Red Hood is known for protecting the alley and never harming children. After all, Jackson must admire him a lot, seeing he even showed up to the meeting with a red hood, red cap. You told us about how you figured out Scarecrow's plan, which again is very cool, but you didn't tell us how you found him. Even if your algorithm tells you Scarecrow broke out, it doesn't explain why you knew where he was. Oh, that's easy, Jackson replies, back to typing on his laptop. I was there. What? The fuck? Jason sounds bewildered. Jax, kid, say that again for me? More keyboard clicking, Jax shrugs. Like I said, I was there. I saw Scarecrow pull up in that car and walk into the building. I took a bunch of photos and sent them to Angel, which he then sent to the commissioner, and then called Oracle, 'cause it was an emergency. You were there the night of Scarecrow's escape? Bruce repeats evenly. Jackson nods an innocent bob of his head. I wasn't aware of this. Babs chimes in with concern. Angel never told me. He just said that he received a tip, and I assumed his informant had extremely good sources. Jax, are you saying you were there alone? Yeah, but that's not a big deal, Jax says without a worry, unaware of the mood drop between the bats. I do it all the time. How else do you think I get my info? It's first-hand for a reason. A direct, original source is what I personally found or scouted out. Dick's new theory is absolutely correct. Jackson is an adventurous, rash kid who can't help himself and get into dangerous situations for fun. He feels some sympathy for Angel. That poor guy must have so many gray hairs. Dick is already worried about the kid, and he only just met him. And where exactly were you during this incident? Bruce interrogates with a less grave voice. Dick detects. He must be still worried about Jax despite knowing that Angel's doing his best to protect him. It's all in his blood, after all. Fatherly instincts are very, very strong. Rooftop! Jack exclaims, still typing away. Having a good view is the best for info collecting. I get the best photos and the highest vantage points, so I was on a rooftop. Good pictures makes for good evidence. I see. Bruce pauses for a moment, thinking about something. His face does the thing where it becomes eerily calm, meaning he pairs things together. Is this when you fell? He says slowly. You fell? Dick blurts out, eyes widening. Like, fell off a rooftop. Please tell him this kid didn't actually... What the fuck does that mean? Jason explains. There's no way you actually fell off a rooftop, right? You're all bones. How the shit are you walking? He eloquently says, putting Dick's own thoughts into words. Even Barbara seems concerned, voice full of worry despite the static. Jackson? Jackson looks sheepish when he responds. Yeah, so I was still there where the angel called the oracle, so I had to run away as fast as I could before any of you guys got there. Didn't want my identity to be found out, so I scrambled and accidentally fell off a rooftop. Well. He pauses, titling his head slightly. Kinda, not really. I caught myself before I actually fell. Although that whole escapade thing was totally a waste of my energy, and I could have spared my left side of injury, since Angel just up and revealed my existence, like that. He says with a snap of his fingers. Jack rolls his eyes. Thanks a lot, man. That's like 4 years plus down the drain. No offense to you guys, of course, Angel. Of course, again, I'm a big fan. Dick's face crumbles. He fell off a rooftop. Even if he didn't fall all the way, he still got hurt. Angel must have been worried out of his mind, right? Dick's feeling more and more complicated about Angel now, twisting in his gut. If by any off chance he's wrong about the theory, then Angel didn't let you leave first. Uh-oh. That's Bruce, are you kidding me voice. He's using full, complete statements. He risked your identity. Jack shrugs again. That's the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. Angel's rules, anyway. I didn't care about it at the start, but we had a thing going, you know. But it's not his fault or anything. Capturing Crane's much more important, yeah? And Bruce is back to grunting. Jackson seems to understand that the meaning for Batman because he turns back to Jason. Hope that answers your question, Jude. Jack says chilly. Sorry that I kinda went on a tangent. Jason reaches a gloved hand out, presumably to pat Jackson's head. He pauses just before. He retracts his hand. It's alright, kid. Thanks for answering my question. And I think that's a good place to end this meeting, yeah? He looks around for confirmation, and Dick sees Bruce nod slightly. Thank you for your time, Jackson. Babs concludes, agreeing with Jax. We really appreciate you coming out and meeting us like this, as well as sharing such important information with us. We hope you continue to work with us like this. Jack's eyes scrunch, beaming underneath his mask. Of course, I'm glad to be of assistance. I guess you guys can contact me whenever. I have a lot of free time than Angel does. He's a busy guy with a busy job. We'll make sure to keep in contact. And hey, maybe you will even join us in the cave someday. You and Angel, Dick says with a wink. But Jackson, despite being such a big fan of them, and would usually be ecstatic about that arrangement, is crestfallen. And Dick knows the boy isn't nearly fast enough in his poker face for the rest of them to notice. Something is definitely wrong about Angel and Jackson. Also, let's get to you those autographs, shall we? Dick quickly remembers, slapping a grin on his face to change the subject. The look on Jackson's face is priceless as Dick gets up to find a pen and some paper. Kids like Jackson should be happy and safe. He never wants to see that devastating expression on Jackson ever again. While Dick does manage to locate a Sharpie, he is unable to find any paper. By the way, this safe house is not stocked whatsoever. I know it's a spare one, but come on, not a single sheet of paper? Steal B's car crate or something if you must. Dick ends up opting for a roll of gauze from Jason's medkit, which Jack seems more thrilled about than just regular printer paper. Everyone cites the gauze, except Oracle, who promises him that she will give him her autograph next time. And Jax looks at the bandage placed in his palm as if it was the Holy Grail. His eyes are wide and shimmering as he asks, "Is this really okay?" Dick smiles. "Of course it is. It's the least we could do for you." "I'm making this my family heirloom," Jax declares with such vigor that Dick's convinced he's being genuine about the statement. He can't help but laugh. Jason chuckles as well. "You do that, kid." Dick reaches out a hand to pat his head again, but stops himself just in time. Both he and Jason have been fighting the brotherly urge to pat this kid's head, especially since their own little brother Damien is armed and dangerous and will stab them if they touch him. Jason doesn't really like physical touch either. Actually, now that Dick's thinking about it, none of his family prefers physical affection and usually is more on the emotionally compassionate side. Especially, Dick is long overdue for a hug. He's been so deprived of his little brother enrichment time. But Jackson probably wouldn't enjoy it, seeing the way he flinched so violently from Bruce's touch. Dick still wants to figure out why Jax reacted like that. Perhaps it's due to their parents. He did say in his text that their parents never cared. Angel might answer his questions if he asked politely, like last time. I'll make another call to him and try to get his contact information. Dick nods to himself. It's not only to relieve his distress of not knowing and to satiate his concern, but also to start building a relationship with the operator. They may know Jackson now, but Angel is still in the dark. Dick doesn't mind becoming friends with the man, especially since he still thinks he knows the truth about Angel's motive behind the hotline's creation. And on the flip side of him being wrong, well, he can always play double agent and gather intel about Angel if he ever needs to. If there is concrete evidence that Angel is hurting Jackson, Dick will not hesitate to do what he must. He nods again. That sounds like a good plan. Suddenly, Dick feels a sharp eye boring into him. Jax is staring at him, his gaze piercing and eerily similar to Batman's glare. Then looks over at Jason. His eyes flicker back and forth with intensity between the two before finally directing his heavy gaze onto his feet. He takes a deep breath in, stands up straight, and lifts his red cap off his head without prompting. Shiny black hair is revealed, and Jax ruffles it a little bit to get rid of his hot hair. Here. He tilts his head down, showing the top of his head. You guys seem like patting people's heads, but I had a cap on the whole time. That's probably rude. So here, you can pat my hair now. Dick's surprised at the unexpected honesty and perceptiveness. He somehow notices the minute hesitation from both him and Jason, who are trained vigilantes. If this is Jack's observation abilities without any sort of assistance, Dick wonders what sort of powerhouse he could become with training from Batman. You sure? Jay's first to ask, hand already outstretched. Maybe he's also deprived of little brother enrichment time just like Dick has been. Go ahead, he confirms. Jason tussles Jack's hair with haste, absolutely dehaveling it. It looks like a bird's nest, and Dick can't seem but to grin. Bird's nest. Jax fits right in, huh? Jax shouts out, Hey! You gave permission to pat your hair. Jason grins with a shrug. So I patted your hair. That was more than a pat, Red Hood. Jackson attempted to tame Jason's messy handwork on his head, brushing a hand through his locks. That was like rearranging my hair follicles. Dick fails to hold back a snicker. Jason barks out a laugh. Big words for a 12-year-old. I'm not 12, I'm 17. Jax shows back. No way, you look like you're 10. Exasperated, Jackson exclaims, Don't go lower! 17. Dick repeats in his head, shaking his head with worry as Jackson and Jason continues to bicker naturally as if they were siblings. He can't even legally pay taxes yet. What's he doing running around Gotham at night? He also takes the opportunity to ruffle Jack's hair as well, and he seems to almost melt into the touch. Maybe Angel isn't very physical affectionate, just like Bruce. Speaking of, how is B doing right now? Dick takes one quick glance at Bruce and immediately knows that B cataloging the information straight into his memory bank and will immediately go to the Batcave to update Angel's and Jackson's files. I guess another younger brother of Angel will be 17 years old, huh? He thinks. And now that Dick is looking at Jax without both his sunglasses and cap, he realizes something. Blue eyes, black hair, a penchant for danger and vigilantism, genius intellect, a sharp, piercing glare, dressed in all black. Maybe an orphan. Oh God, Jax is prime adoption bait. If he squints, Dick might even assume Jax is Bruce's biological son with the way he acts. He's going to need to remind Bruce again that he can't just scoop out children who look like him as his wards. He can see that look in his eye. Dick shakes his head, attempting to signal to Bruce that it is not wise to steal Angel's family away from him, especially since they're trying to work with Angel, not against him. Taking his brother is probably the single worst thing to do when he entrusted the boy to them. Bruce, in classic Bruce fashion, ignores him, still focusing on Jackson internally. Dick sighs. At least I tried, he thinks. Damien's not going to be very happy if there's another kid added into the family so soon. Before they send Jackson off with Batman on the Batmobile, Dick makes up his mind and decides to just go for it. He needs it. He will die without this. "Hey, Jax!" he shouts. He spins back around as soon as he hears his name. "Yes?" Dick opens his arms wide and beams. "Is it okay if I get a hug?" He needs his little brother enrichment time, and Jackson is just so little brother sized. Something tells Dick that Jax will be a great hugger. He will slot perfectly in his outstretched arms. Jackson's eyes are so big, more black than blue now. They're practically glittering as he stiffens, glancing at the rest of the bats as if this is some sort of test. He takes a small step forward, making brief eye contact with Dick. You're sure? Really?" he asks, voice quiet and shy. Dick has not heard his sort of tender, uneasy voice from Jax before, not even once during this entire night. It's as if all of the energy and excitement drained from his body, and what's left of him is his true, unadulterated self. His Bristol accent is a little stronger here. "I'm sure," Dick finally states, stretching his eyes wider. Jackson doesn't say anything. Suddenly, he sprints into Dick's arms, nearly knocking over the wind out of him, and squeezes him so tightly that Dick feels like his ribs are going to break under the pressure. How does this 17-year-old kid have this much strength? As Dick is returning the hug, squeezing back hard, he hears a very faint mumble coming from Jax, buried in his chest. If he wasn't trained to hear those type of unintelligible sounds, Dick might have missed what Jackson said. But he doesn't. Maybe he should have. "Thank you for the best hug of my life. Again," he whispers, voice muffled. "You have no idea what this means to me. It makes me feel like maybe I matter after all. Like you make me real. I'm real, and I matter." He sniffles. "Ever since we met at Hailey's 14 years ago." Before Dick can even process what the teenager says, Jackson releases his iron grip around him and hops back. His eyes are wet. Jackson walks towards Bruce, who's still waiting by the car, hesitates for half a second, and turns around at the last second before getting into the Batmobile. Jax is wearing a sad smile. It makes Dick's heart splinter into needle-sharp pieces. "Thank you, Nightwing," he says one last time, bowing his head to him. Then Jason, and finally enters the vehicle. The space where the Batmobile was parked is now empty. Dick stands here, motionless as Jason retires the night as well and says goodbye, riding off on his motorcycle. He leaves the safe house key in Dick's palm, but Dick can hardly think about that right now. There are a lot of things Dick wanted to think before the night ends. Originally, his main goal was to get into the contacts with Angel and get to the bottom of his relationship with Jackson. He was planning on texting the group chat about B being called Mr. Batman. He planned to tell Jay to stock up on basic essentials in all of his safe houses, because it's pathetic to not even have scratch paper. He planned on doing a quick round of patrol before he went to bed. He even planned on analyzing what Jax whispered to himself about being real, assuming Dick couldn't hear it. He had planned for all those things and more. But all that Dick can think about right now is 14 years ago. Haley's circus. The day his mother and father, the flying Graysons, fell. And apparently, ever since we met at Haley's 14 years ago. Where had Dick met Jackson before? No, that's not right. That's not even the question he should be asking himself. Thinking about that night at Haley's always causes him to spiral. And he usually has Zitka beside him whenever he does think about it. But she's not here right now. Dick tries to focus on something, anything that can keep him grounded, and he squeezes his fist tightly. A cold steel pricks his hand. The minute pain momentarily stopping his racing thoughts. Jay's key. He chokes back a sob. Is Dick allowed to be saved by this, when he couldn't even save him? He couldn't have saved his parents. He couldn't save Jason. He couldn't save Bruce, Damien, Cass. He couldn't even save himself. Can he ever be called a hero if all he does is fail? Can Dick Grayson be called a hero? Does he deserve to be Nightwing? He feels his heart like it's simultaneously stopped in his chest. It's also pounding so aggressively that he wants to throw up. His mouth dries and his head begins to spin, vision blurring as he gazes blankly at the cold key digging into his palm. Dick grips the metal harder and harder until the teeth of the key start to puncture into his hand. The pain fades, the memory of Haley's, and bringing Dick back to his main, most important question. How does Jackson know who I am? He swallows. And why? Why is he so grateful to me as Dick Grayson and not Nightwing? Who would ever think of him that way? Who would want to? That's the end of the first chapter. I hope you enjoyed. I know I stuttered a lot because I was sick lately and I didn't feel great yet. I'm sorry for that. Yeah. I hope to hear you next time.